two words. That's all it is. Two words you've probably said to your baby girl dozens of times this week alone. When she sits quietly, when she eats without fussing, when she smiles at a stranger, when she does something that makes the room feel easier, lighter, more manageable. Good girl. It feels like love. It sounds like encouragement. It comes from the best place a parent can come from. And yet, there is something happening underneath those two words that nobody talks about, something that child psychologists have been studying for decades, something that shows up not in the first year of her life, or the second, or even the fifth, but years later, in the way she moves through the world, in the way she treats herself, in the decisions she makes when nobody is watching. And it all traces back to something as small and ordinary as the words you use to praise her right now. Stay with me, because this one is going to surprise you. It sounds like love, but what is it really teaching her? Let's start at the beginning. When you say good girl to your baby girl, what are you actually saying? Think about it for a moment. You're not praising something she did. You're praising something she is. Good girl doesn't mean that was a good thing you did. It means you are good. Your goodness, your worth, your value to the people around you, right now, in this moment, is confirmed, and that feels wonderful for both of you. But here's where it gets complicated, because if good girl means she is good right now, then somewhere in her developing mind, a question begins to form, a question she can't yet put into words, a question that lives underneath everything. What does not good girl mean? She doesn't ask it consciously. She's a baby. She doesn't have the language or the cognitive development to frame it that way, but her brain, which is the most active, most rapidly developing, most sensitive learning machine on the planet right now, is doing what developing brains do. It's looking for patterns, and the pattern it finds is this: when I am quiet, I am good. When I am easy, I am good. When I don't need too much, when I don't ask too much, when I don't feel too much, I am good. And when I am loud, when I am difficult, when I need something, and I need it now, and I can't explain why, that version of me doesn't get called good. The research nobody tells new parents. In the 1970s, a psychologist named Carol Dweck began studying something that would quietly change the way we understand human motivation and self-belief. She wanted to know why some children collapsed when they encountered difficulty and why others seemed to lean into it. What she found wasn't about intelligence. It wasn't about talent. It wasn't even really about effort. It was about the type of praise those children received when they were young. Children who were praised for who they were. You're so smart. You're such a good girl. You're so talented. Developed what Dweck called a fixed mindset. They began to see their qualities as things they either had or didn't have, things that could be confirmed or taken away. And when things got hard, when they failed, when they struggled, when they couldn't do something perfectly, they didn't try harder. They stopped trying altogether, because trying and failing meant risking the one thing they had been told they were: good, smart, talented, worthy. Children praised for what they did, for their effort, their process, their persistence, developed something different. A belief that their qualities were things they could grow, things that weren't fixed or fragile, things that belonged to them regardless of the outcome. Dweck called this a growth mindset, and the research on it has been replicated across cultures, across age groups, across decades. And it starts earlier than most parents realize. It starts in the ordinary moments, the quiet praise, the small daily words. It starts with something as simple as good girl. What good girl does to her identity. Here is the part that matters most for baby girls specifically, because there is something that happens with girls and the word good that is different from what happens with boys. Think about how we praise little boys. Look at him go. He's so strong. He's so brave. He figured that out all by himself. The praise is almost always about action, about capability, about doing. Now think about how we praise little girls. She's so good. She's so sweet. She's so pretty. She's such a good girl. The praise is almost always about being, about disposition, about how easy she is to be around. And over time, through hundreds and thousands of tiny repetitions, those patterns of praise become the map she uses to understand herself. Boys learn that they are what they do. Girls learn that they are what they are. And what they are, what she learns she is supposed to be, is good, sweet, easy, quiet, agreeable, not too much, not too loud, not too difficult. A 2017 study published in Science found that by the age of 6, just 6 years old, girls were already less likely than boys to describe members of their own gender as really, really smart. They were, however, more likely to describe girls as really, really nice, 6 years old. And the formation of those beliefs doesn't begin at 6. It begins in infancy, in the repeated daily messages about what kind of person gets praised and what kind doesn't. The hidden cost of being the good girl. Let's talk about what this looks like when it grows up, because this is the part that will stay with you. The little girl who learned that her goodness was the most important thing about her grows into a person who is terrified of losing it. She becomes the child who never raises her hand when she isn't sure of the answer, because getting it wrong would mean not being smart, not being good. She becomes the teenager who says yes when she means no, because disagreeing would make her difficult, and difficult is the opposite of good. She becomes the woman who apologizes before she even knows what for, who makes herself smaller in rooms where she should take up space, who works twice as hard for half the recognition because she was never taught that her effort mattered as much as her agreeableness. She becomes someone who is exhausted by the performance of goodness, who has been performing it for so long she can barely remember what it feels like to just be. None of that started in high school. None of it started in middle school. It started in a living room or a kitchen or a nursery when she was very small, and someone who loved her more than anything looked at her and said, "Good girl," and she learned, in that tiny moment, what kind of person she was supposed to be. But wait, is all praise bad? No, absolutely not. This is important. Praise is one of the most powerful tools you have as a parent. The warmth, the attention, the confirmation that she matters. These are not things to take away. They are things to redirect. The problem is never the praise itself. The problem is the type of praise, and the difference is smaller than you think. It lives in just a few words. Instead of praising who she is, praise what she did. Instead of good girl, which tells her she is good, try something that tells her what specifically was good. You shared that toy. That was so kind. Not, "You're such a good girl for sharing." You tried that 5 times and you kept going. That's incredible. Not, "You're such a good girl." You noticed that she was sad and you went over to her. Look at that. You paid attention. Not, "What a good girl you are." Do you feel the difference? In the first version, the goodness lives in her action, in something she chose to do, in something she can do again and grow. In the second version, the goodness lives in her identity, in something fixed and fragile and ultimately outside her control. One builds a foundation, the other builds a performance. What about when she's not being good? Here's the flip side that nobody talks about, because if good girl teaches her something in the moments she receives it, what does the absence of it teach her in the moments she doesn't? When she's fussy, when she's demanding, when she's crying for the 4th time in an hour and you can feel your patience thinning, what does she learn in those moments about who she is? If good girl is the most consistent message she receives about her worth, then the moments where it's absent become charged with meaning. She doesn't hear the absence as silence. She hears it as something, and what she hears is exactly what you don't want her to believe. That difficult is bad, that needy is bad, that having big feelings is bad, that the version of herself that needs something, that isn't easy, that isn't quiet, that isn't performing goodness, is a version that doesn't get the warmth. This is why emotional validation matters so much in these early years. Not because you need to celebrate every tantrum or pretend every difficult moment is wonderful, but because she needs to know, in her body, not just her brain, that she is equally lovable in the hard moments as she is in the easy ones. Her worth is not conditional on her behavior, and the only way she learns that is if your warmth is not conditional on her behavior either. The 3 kinds of praise that actually build her up. So what does it look like in practice? Here are 3 simple shifts you can make starting today. Not complicated, not clinical, just a slightly different way of speaking to her that carries an entirely different message. The first is effort praise. This one celebrates the trying, not the result. You kept going even when that was hard. You tried something new today. Look how much you practiced that. It teaches her that persistence and courage are things she has and can grow, not luck or talent she was born with. The second is character praise. This one names the quality behind the action without attaching it to her entire identity. That was so kind of you. You were so patient right then. That was really brave. It tells her what she's capable of without making her feel like she has to maintain a permanent performance of it. The third is noticing. This one is the most underused and maybe the most powerful. It's simply describing what you see without judging it at all. You're really concentrating on that. You put that together all by yourself. You figured out a different way to do it. There's no evaluation in noticing, no good or bad, just attention, just being seen. And being seen, it turns out, is often the deepest form of praise there is. One more thing. There's something underneath all of this that's worth saying out loud. You say, good girl, because you love her. You say it in the moments when she does something that fills you with warmth and pride, and that specific kind of joy that only comes from watching someone you love exist in the world. That love is not the problem. That love is everything. What this video is asking you to do is not to love her less, or praise her less, or be more restrained with her. It's asking you to let your praise carry the full weight of what you actually see in her. Because when you look at her, really look at her, you don't just see a good girl. You see someone curious, someone brave, someone persistent and funny and complicated and fully alive. You see someone who tries things that scare her, who feels things deeply, who notices the world with a kind of attention that most adults have forgotten how to have. You see someone whose worth is not in her compliance, not in her agreeableness, not in how easy she makes your day. You see someone whole. And the words you choose to tell her who she is, the small, daily, ordinary words that feel like nothing, are quietly building the story she will tell herself for the rest of her life. Make that story true. Make it big enough to hold everything she actually is. Not just the easy parts, not just the quiet parts, not just the parts that make the room feel lighter, all of it. Every complicated, curious, wonderful part of her. She is not just good, she is extraordinary, and she is listening to every single word you say. If this changed the way you think about something you say every day, share it with another parent who needed to hear it. And if you want to keep understanding your baby girl more deeply, the next video is right there waiting for you. She is already trying to tell you everything. You just have to know how to listen.